It's at this stage of the podcast where I usually take a big, deep breath and then go through all of the amazing accomplishments our next guest of the podcast has done. Well, he was on the podcast already a couple of weeks ago. And right now, I personally am using him over the next 40 minutes to find out everything he knows for the Dublin Marathon coming up later this week on Sunday. David McCarthy, you've been one of the top downloaded guests we've had all year. It's not number one or two, I think it is right now. Welcome back to the Any Given Runday Podcast. How are you getting on?
Good, lads. Good. Hopefully now I haven't tired people out from listening to me, and they can actually stay listening along long enough here to hopefully get some tips leading into the week of Dublin Marathon.
I tell you what, David, like Sean's face right now, he is scared, and he has done many marathons. You can tell by him. And like many others, there's a lot of people who are taking on their first one. There's a lot of people out there going for a PB. And there's a lot of people who are going to scramble for every last bit of medical advice, training advice, running advice, any kind of advice that's going to help them get to the start line. Where do we start?
So I think even just what you're commenting on, we'll say with Sean there, I think the actual number one thing to acknowledge for everyone is that it is absolutely normal to be scared and nervous. And that is what goes with it. Like, you know, I look back on like some of my races more back in the past where there were high pressured situations. And now I look back and like the saying is true. Pressure is a privilege. And like, you know, there'll be some point down the road when the marathon isn't there for everyone who's running it now. At some point, we all get old enough, like some point it's gone, right? And you'll be looking back and, you know, you'll be wishing you could have that anxiety race week. And I think that's what makes you feel alive. Like you wouldn't be doing a challenge. Like a challenge wouldn't be a challenge unless it came with some sort of nerves and anxiousness. But it's also important to know that like you can't not have that, but that it's okay to have that and just acknowledge it and then try not to feed into it. So that's why I want to kind of speak about this too, is like, don't feed into like, don't get so wound up and anxious about it. Like have sort of triggers in your mind to be able to bring you down and keep you calm. So like for me, I always use a lot of positive affirmations, especially around the times when I know, like we'll say the mind can easily kick over. So you need to have those backup affirmations. So like, you know, mine would be like, I can't wait to get out there. I'm so fit and healthy. I'm excited to run. Like this is going to go great for me. Like I know the saying, as the saying goes, fake it till you make it. But like the only thing you can do now in this time is sort of lose it or win it, you know, emotionally or mentally, you know? And so I think just really try hard to speak positively to yourself and look at it as what it's going to be a great experience. And I genuinely believe when you do that, I don't know whether you call it the law of attraction or whatever, but I genuinely do believe that like if you give that time to thinking positively about it and not feeding into the negative thoughts, I think it actually it works out well. So from that point of view, I think it's just important that everyone knows that everyone is hitting the brick the night before. Like I had a lad I'm coaching run Copenhagen Marathon there a few weeks back, and he had a crap night's sleep the night before, and he was a little bit panicky about it. And he's like, "Will I be okay?" And I was like, "Did you see the Kipchoge sub 2 hour documentary?" And the night before, he didn't sleep because he was nervous. Like even Kipchoge, as cold as ice as that man seems in terms of emotionally, like in terms of being able to just be a rock in the start line, he too couldn't sleep the night before because he was anxious and thinking about the race. So if you don't sleep the night before, that is normal. It's all like try your best at the start of the week to sort of get as much sleep. And then if you don't start getting sleep or something like that, just don't worry about it. You're resting.
And it's one thing that was said to me at the start line, probably when I was most scared, was the only difference between nerves and excitement is a big deep breath. And that's what everyone needs to remember is take that deep breath and see how it goes. Just relax. Get that heart rate down. Just breathe and enjoy it for what it is. So we're into this week as well. People are wondering, what do they need to bring? What kind of preparation do we need to do? Big thing and big topic that comes up every year is carb loading. What do we need to eat? You know, what kind of key tips are we looking at now a couple of days out?
Yeah, so like I'm sure like the key too is not to change too many things, right? Like the danger is you change too much this week and your body isn't used to it, and then it gives a reaction that you don't want. Like trust yourself that you're ready for this. And like I know we need to carb load and everything, but we also don't want to like drown ourselves in carbs that we feel like so heavy, and also too we must remember too like carbs made up of sugars as well. So like you don't want to be getting too much of sugar crashes and all that as well, you know. I just think keep everything normal. Majority of people will have done probably up to 30K long runs, right, leading into this. And they've hopefully learned a couple of tricks from that, how to get through. And like I always say to anyone, even that I'm coaching, if you're running 30K by yourself in training, you're going to be able to handle 42K the day of Dublin Marathon. Like that's without a doubt. So I think nutrition wise, just keep things simple. Like you don't want to be getting bad reactions. Like, so at the end of the day, I always say you are your average, right? You are your average. So like just do what's good, kind of like as what you have been doing up to now. And it'll be good, and more just look to rest this week. That would be the biggest thing. Try and bank up as much sleep as possible. Like figuring out places in life that you can deload. Obviously, like, you know, people have to work, but can you take a day off this week? Is that possible for somebody? Is it possibly to have less responsibility elsewhere? Just to make that effort to give yourself headspace more than you don't run into the weekend and next thing the weekend's gone ahead of you and you haven't thought about what you need to bring with you, you know? So from the nutritional point of view, in terms of race day, like have it broken down almost what you're going to do at least 2 days before, so you don't have to be thinking about it on the day. And I mean like just simple. What's your breakfast? What's your lunch? What's your dinner? Make sure you're hydrating the couple of days beforehand, but also make sure not to overhydrate. The last thing you want to be doing is drinking too much water before going to bed and then getting up all night long, going to the toilet and disturbing your sleep, right? So like we can also overhydrate and flush the minerals out of ourselves. So, you know, just keep everything. I think the best thing to do is, as you said there, take that deep breath, calmness now. That's basically what's going to help people here. But have your strategy, you know, in terms of your fueling. So, you know, the night before, are you taking a carb mix on or what are you eating, right? Just have that. Don't let anything disturb you this week. Don't let new advice come in this week and deter you from your usual, you know, because everyone does things slightly differently. And then the morning of, like, I always say work back from the time of the race, okay? So like what time is the race starting at? So what time before the race do you need to be on the starting line? So what time before the race do you need to be finished your warm-up if you are doing a warm-up? So that means what time do you need to be starting your warm-up? Then what time do you need to be parked relative to wherever you're staying in order to walk to the venue? Like I always do that days of races. I always track back from the start time and then just time stacking so I can see, boom, I have to be up at this time in the morning. I'm having my breakfast at this. I'm getting down on the floor doing a little bit of foam rolling mobility before I leave the house to go. And then in terms of gear and everything, that's all laid out the night before. So what you're wearing race day, all the gels, all the drinks, that's all there. And then on top of that, what clothes are you wearing going to the place, and maybe even spare clothes for after the race in case you've gotten wet. And like I think I was saying to you there just before we started recording this, guys, a big thing I do is because sometimes you don't know what the weather is the day of race day. I like to go into Pennies and get like a 3-5 euro t-shirt or long sleeve top to have on me so that I can throw off and discard in the start line. What you don't want to be doing is getting cold in the start line. Also, if it's raining. So maybe even if it's a thing you don't want to throw a jacket on the ground, put a Pennies t-shirt over your singlet and then put a bin bag over that. And you're good.
Yeah, and that's it exactly. And I think the all t-shirts, jumpers, etc., that are left at the start line, I believe, are donated to charity as well. Mm-hmm. So it is your way of don't be worried about it because it does go to charity. It's a t-shirt that's been worn for 20 minutes, so it's probably the best t-shirt that's ever gone to charity as well. And the bin liner is a great one. A thick bin liner. Don't cheap out on your bin liner because it will reflect the heat back in. It will keep heat in. It'll keep rain out. It's a very simple, effective way. It's a Halloween costume. We're doing a marathon at the end of October, so don't be afraid to do it. And it's a fantastic bit of advice that myself and Sean learned the hard way over a couple of years of the Dublin Marathon is be warm on that start line because depending on your wave, you could be standing a long, long time.
Yeah, and like the thing is too, I always believe like the most important time in a race is how you start, where your energy, where your flow is. If you start into the marathon and you're starting stiff and cold, like there's not much coming back from that, you know? You've got to be in a place like envision yourself. That first kilometer in Dublin is lovely, like, you know, the way you're, and like there's some buzz in it, right? Like what I say is envision how you want that to go and make it happen. Everyone, no matter what way the race can go, everyone can make that happen. So I mean in terms of mood, your happiness, your well-being, how your body is flowing, right? That before any time frame. You've 42K ahead of you to worry about timing and all that. But just make sure you get into a flow from the start and just like feel the rhythm, like take those deep breaths, because I think you still need to take those deep breaths over the first kilometer or two, because there is a lot of chaos going on around you. There's a load of people cheering. The field is quite thick and dense then, because everyone is starting. And it's very easy to get carried away with yourself and lose your flow, lose your rhythm. And then next thing, you're kind of going over, the first bridge,
just down towards the Stony Batter.
Yeah, the Liffey. And then you're coming up into a hill, as you're coming up there. And you're like, oh, Jesus Christ, I haven't even gathered myself here, and the race is into it. So just focus on yourself. That's the most important thing when the gun goes, and allow yourself to get to the Phoenix Park and still be chilled.
For those starting the race and they have a goal in mind, and you're talking about settling in and stuff like that, where would you recommend, let's say someone's going for, I don't know, 3:30 or 3:40 or 3:50, whatever the time is, to see the paces and stuff there. Do you recommend them being just behind the pacer, just in front of the pacer, in the group, or do your own thing to get those first 3K and then just keep your eye on where the pace is and run your own race? Or what do you recommend there?
Yeah, so again, sometimes that comes down to kind of almost a preference thing. Personally, for me, I'd like to just get right in the pack. Just get right in the pack and, basically, hopefully reflecting any wind. So at least you're getting the easiest ride of it. And almost like sometimes I find, remember I was saying to you even the last time we were talking about like track racing, when you're outside of the pack, you almost think like you're always clawing on. There's that sense of clawing on to it. Now, for some people, they can't with their running form or the way they operate. They can't be in a tight bunch. They get uncomfortable and antsy if they're constantly watching people's feet around them. So if that's going to be stressful, just get out and just find a clear patch of road to run on and stick with the group. But the main thing is, wherever you are around that group you're going with, just remember that they are the pacers. You don't have to worry about the pace. So the only thing you think about in that moment and for the rest of the race as long as possible is stay relaxed, relax, relax, relax. Like, again, have those affirmations in your head, have those words in your head that you need to know are there for when the going gets tough, or even before it gets tough. So you're not trying to think about how you deal with this in the race. You know how to combat it when it comes.
And just on that, in terms of preference, for example, my preference is to be about 2 meters in front of the pacers. I like to feel like they're chasing me for the entire 42K. And the aim of the game is don't get caught. And it does, because like me, I'm 6'4", it's a tight space. I've longer strikes and sums. So it's nicer to be out in front. But again, you will figure that out over the first couple of kilometers. You'll find out where you go. You have 42 kilometers to figure out where you like to be the best. But again, it's about making this race, an endurance race, as easy for yourself as possible, the straightest line as possible. And as you said, less wind. And warmth in the group. If it's a cold morning, if it's a rainy morning, surround yourself with people.
Yeah, definitely. No, 100%. So I think like that. And then I suppose a couple of other things just to think about even then, okay, still leading into the race, like what can we still touch off here before people even get to the start line the week off? Like, I know they're simple things, but like make sure the Garmin is charged. You know what I mean? Like,
if it's not the Garmin, it didn't happen.
Yeah. And also I just say to people, be very careful if you're choosing to wear a new pair of shoes on the day. Like that you are running a risk with that, So even if you're only hearing this now and this was you, get out and run them a couple of times this week. Be careful that you don't wear ankle socks too low that they slip down and next thing the shoe is cutting you. Like all this stuff comes against you. Body glide, that anti-chafing stuff. Like all of that, like know what could potentially come against you. Like, like even if it's for like, it could be like nipple chafage, like don't forget your plasters. Like all of this stuff like is the stuff that will come at you at the end. So again, just like have a list of things that you need on race day. So you're talking about your Garmin, your nutrition, your racing shoes, your racing kit. Are you wearing a hat? Are you wearing sunglasses? All of this stuff. Just have all of that laid out, because the last thing you want to be doing is like getting to the car, putting on your gear, and you'll be like, I forgot this,
Yeah, and for those who don't know, and we see everyone with the red waterfalls coming off their chest crossing the finish line.
Yeah.
The nipple chafing, particularly if it rains with the sweat, is really, really bad. Body Glide, as you mentioned, you can get in most major triathlon or running shops. It's basically like a wax, pretty much the best to describe it. In between the thighs, you know, anywhere it's going to run. If you're going to wear a sleeveless like Sean, underneath the arms where it's going to chafe off the t-shirt and the nipples.
And even I would say if you have an issue with the nipples, I would like even be like the Body Glide, because I wear the Body Glide. I have to wear it like for split shorts. I get it the whole time. Like once I go over like 15 miles, like I even can get it sometimes at the end of a run, even put it out. So sometimes maybe it might be a thing of wearing the half tights, but with the nipple chafage, sometimes I know just friends that I've chatted with, I'd say, oh, would you not use the Body Glide? And they're like, no, it'll wear off by the end of plasters, you know, that kind of way. Just again, it's making sure your gear is right and ready for it, you know. And like that, no, like if it is shorts where you end up getting some chafage and stuff like that.
There's a lot of different types of stuff on gels. First of all, where do you recommend running belts to carry all the gels? Do you do it in the pocket, or like what way would that happen? And then during the race, do you have a particular point, like some people say you get through Stony Bar first gel there, or maybe halfway to the Phoenix Park first gel there, or is this more an individual type thing, do you think?
Yeah, well, so I suppose as regards with carrying the gels, like you've only one option if you're not an elite and you don't have anyone to hand you anything out in the course, right? You have to carry the gels yourself. And so when it comes to wearing belts, there's lots of shorts out there now that have lots of pockets in them, but like you have to go buy those shorts, you know. So maybe your shorts don't have them. And like, let's be honest, like for anyone running basically 3+ hours marathon run, you are actually you're carrying quite a few gels, you know. You know, you are like, and so there are gels out there that have like higher grams per others, like, so maybe you want to bump up and carry less, or it depends on what way you've been practicing till now. But definitely, like, you know, if the belts are comfortable, whatever is comfortable in you, like, you know, that it's not bothering you running, you know, that's the main thing. The other side of it is if you are lucky to maybe have support out in the course there, that people can hand you something. But what I would say about that is, like, you also can't rely on that either, can you? Because maybe somebody doesn't get to a point, or maybe you miss them, or maybe there's so much carnage in an area that you don't even hear them. So that's also risky. But maybe what I would say is, like, say if you really felt like taking on a liquid, maybe that's something you might want somebody to hand to you, you know? And what I would say, if you plan that well with whoever you're doing that for, so you can't just say, oh, at mile 13, that's not good enough, because you'd be surprised that maybe that person can't get around that. So I would be getting them at an area where you think there isn't many spectators, and making that person stick out like a sore thumb so you can see him like a little specific marker on the road. But you've got to have that organised yourself prior to that, you know? And that's if you want to get the drink on. And then during that moment, I would be saying to you, like, calm, like, you know, don't, just take it easy. When you are taking on your gels, when you're taking on your drinks, take that as a moment too to just calm yourself, and don't be like trying to like breathe heavy and push the pace while swallowing a gel and just distorting your whole rhythm, you know.
Two good places that, as a spectator that's followed and tried to run after Sean on a couple of occasions. As you're coming out of Dolphins Bar and up towards Crumlin, tends to be quite a sparse group. As soon as you cross that half marathon point, you will start to find yourself more open on the track. And you will start to see people left and right if you have the energy to. It's a great place to do it.
Yeah.
Pick landmarks like gates in and out of the park, or 100 meters beyond, so you have a reference point. And it's just great tips if you're going to have people meeting you. After you get through Crumlin and maybe a little bit beyond, once you're getting past UCD, you're not going to really meet anyone if they're going to be at the finish line for you as well. So just think tactically about because a lot of road closures, it's hard for spectators to get around and get in. So it's just one piece of advice. That halfway mark, if you're looking for a top up of anything, is a really, really good place in our opinion as well. It's just a spot to look out for.
Yeah, definitely. And then just we're saying, like, for people, like, people are going to be traveling all over Ireland for this, you know. So that means, like, probably majority of people are going to be trying to stay in Dublin the night before, you know. And so also with that, like, is like timing, like, don't leave things to the last minute. Like, just give yourself time, so you're limiting stress as well. So that's even like if you are driving up the night before, and it's late, just think about where you eating in around that. Like, are you going later after work? So maybe you need to eat before you leave and stuff like that. And also maybe if you're staying in a hotel room, maybe bring your own pillow from at home, just little things like that. Bring earplugs, bring an eye mask just in case there's noise, and then what I say with all of this, although you're trying to cross the T's and dot the I's, the most important thing is you got to be flexible. Right. So like it just mightn't go exactly to plan. And like in that moment, you've just got to accept that and realize that this isn't actually the deterring factor of it going well or not for me. What the issue is here now is how much as I let it affect me.
Especially now that there's a new starting line. It's not that much different to where it was before, but this is not like rocking up to a 5K park when I've done it before. Like it takes a while to get to the starting line. A lot of the roads are closed, a lot of ways to go around. There's a lot of entrances for different colors of waves and stuff where you start. So give yourself plenty of time. And then what happens to everyone when they get there is, I'm about to get ready to set them up. Well, I really need to go to the toilet. And there's all those queues there for the toilets. And it's like, you can't need this to it. As someone who's stupidly done it before, don't leave it to the last minute to get to the start line of Dublin Marathon.
Yeah, definitely. And I'd be like something even I was kind of even thinking about myself for it is that like probably need to like be careful of the week of the race and the morning of the race. Is something I'm noticing with coffee, and like I'm a big coffee drinker, is it's a diuretic. And I can just see days on my runs when I go for runs after the coffee, I have to stop and pee like so many times on the run. And I've really experimented with not taking on coffee or even just maybe having one, and it's far less. And like, just think about that. Like a coffee is a diuretic. So yes, we want our caffeine hit, but like it is a diuretic. So like, you will be forced to like have to go to the toilet. And like lucky enough, like I'll be on the elite starting line where I have access to pop in and out to the toilet, but most people don't, right? And like I genuinely, like when I'm on the start line of a race and I've access to toilets, I genuinely could go to the toilet 5 times from when I finished my warm up to going, So just be careful around like, how much you're consuming as well, like that. And just, in terms of the coffee, I just found is a real diuretic like that. So maybe have your 1 cup, but don't have 3 cups, if you know what I mean. But also be aware of changing that maybe the week off. So maybe bring it back to 1 cup the day before and 2 cups the day before that, like not to just go complete cold turkey. But it's so annoying when you're on the starting line and all you can think about is having to go to the toilet.
Yeah, it's a long way to go to the toilet again.
Yeah. And a lot of it is just in cases as well. It's your mind going, oh, do I not? Do I need to do it? And
he called them phantom poos.
Yes. Then when you're getting to the starting line of a race, and obviously it's the same level, like you're at the very front and you're buzzing, you're good to go. I know myself before when I do my earlier Dublin Marathon, I'd psych myself up while I'm getting ready, massage going beyond the rocky montage and stuff in the background. And then when I get there, I'm like, I am ready to run through a brick wall. But the only thing is, trying to run through a brick wall for the next 3.5, 4 hours is a lot of expended energy to start. Your approach to start would be more kind of calm yourself down in the deep breaths and maybe leave off the heavy rap or rock music on the way in. Like, how did you approach that in your race, especially the longer ones?
Yeah, like definitely like obviously like, say music wise and you like to listen to it and it gets you going, definitely, right? But I do believe you have to have a moment on the start line or at least some point before the race goes where you ground yourself, like you're steady, like, because I just find if you allow yourself to get too wound up, like at the end of the day, right, this isn't a sprint. It's an endurance race. And I just think like that wound up energy isn't what's going to get you to the finish line at the end. Like it's not like that's going to go, and more so if that wound up energy is there and let's say it's not exactly going the way you anticipated, that can also leave you with a bigger drop, if you know what I mean, emotionally. Yeah. So I would just say I always go back to saying too, what I said on the last podcast, if the fitness is there, it'll come out. Like if the fitness is there, it'll come out. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about how am I going to extract it. It will just come. But allow yourself to get excited for it, of course, but also allow yourself to be steady and calm I think we see this in all sports, really, in walks and like when you look at the elites, when we look at people who are performing, right? Like we can actually measure the performance. They do have an ability to be very calm in the chaos, And I think I was actually like, because I like boxing, right? So I watch a lot of the boxing, and there was actually, I don't know if you saw it there on Prime, they had the new one of the Four Kings, and it was around Frank Bruno and Lennox Lewis and Chris Eubank and Nigel Benn. But like, it spoke about like how like the whole idea was trying to get your opponent angry because like it just stirs them from their game, And where the guy who wins is usually the guy like who is most in control of their emotions. They didn't have to get so rah-rahed up, It's like you have to be like it's like almost like have more the approach of the silent killer, that kind of way. Like you're an assassin, but you're like so calm and steady, no one can see you coming. And like that's a kind of like that's a cool way to look, because I understand like we want to get pumped up and we love that pump up. We love that like I want to feel a little moment until the race isn't over. I can act like I'm McGregor because anything is possible until then, right? but like do it in a steady, calm way, if you know what I mean.
Mm. David, you are an expert of the course itself, and you've paced the course. You know the course by itself. We know we can talk to it in kind of 3/3. Basically, the first third is predominantly a climb, steady climb, pretty much through Castleknock and out to the far side, and a couple of hills thrown in for good measure in between up to the half. Can we talk about the course with you, and have you any tips for people or key checkpoints they should look out to? And again, about that keeping it steady and understanding the terrain, understanding the course so they know what they're doing and when. Have you got sore, aching muscles? Then you need to ask for the UltraPure Laboratories Muscle Recovery Range in your local pharmacy or health store. Trusted by athletes and tried and tested by ourselves, this great value and guarantee Irish range includes Epsom salt gels with arnica, perfect if you have no time or access to a bath.
The Wintergreen Heat Rub Cream, ideal for targeted heat support.
You just need to be careful where you put it, Sean, not for the faint-hearted. And a favourite of ours, the Magnesium Oil Spray, brilliant for restless legs and muscle cramps.
Ice cold menthol gel with arnica, excellent for cooling and soothing tired feet and muscles.
And as we're talking to marathon runners and athletes, the relaxing essential oil muscle spray with 9 essential oils plus arnica, a gem of a product, and most importantly, vegan too.
For bumps and bruises, ask for UltraPure Arnica Cream. And last but not least, their magnesium-rich Epsom salts. We go through buckets of these. You just can't beat an UltraPure Epsom salts bath.
And it's the first wash you've had in years, Sean, bath or shower. So UltraPure, thanks so much for helping us out with that one. UltraPure Laboratories is an Irish-owned and award-winning family business based in County Mayo. Shop the UltraPure Muscle Recovery range in-store or online from pharmacies and health stores. Find out more at ultrapurelabs.ie. And by listening to this advert, you have helped this podcast and you are supporting Irish businesses. So let's get back to this week's episode of the Any Given Runday Podcast.
Yeah, so obviously, first of all, know the sort of the somewhat the lay of the land. So obviously you have your Dublin map, right? And you can kind of get an idea, like if you're looking at Dublin, you can kind of say, okay, at this mile I'm in the Phoenix Park, at this mile I'm coming out of the Phoenix Park, I'm here at halfway, and at 20 miles I'm at 15 miles, 20 miles. So kind of have an idea of like almost where you are, because like sometimes like, yes, we perceive the distance of something through like the mile markers, but at the end of the day, we actually probably more perceive it in terms of where we actually are in the city. You know what I mean? Yes. So like just that, and knowing that can kind of be like, okay, yes, I might be only at mile 20, but I'm only here, and then I'm going to come around here into UCC, and then I'm swinging home. Like, so have an idea of that, right? And then like figure out, like, I'm sure everyone has somebody they know who's ran Dublin before, and if they haven't ran it themselves. And so go back to your Strava and look at the elevation. Just look at the previous map, and that will show you exactly where all the climbs are coming in at. And then, like, you know, I suppose, like, as you see, like, you know, we're saying, yeah, it's kind of pulling up to the Phoenix Park and pulling through. And then when you get out of the Phoenix Park, you sort of, you're dropping back down as if you're going Chapel Lizard direction, but then you come back into the park, you're dropping down. And then you come out of the park and you're passing like kind of that Denore Harriers around that area, right?
Yeah.
And then you go left over the bridge there, and then you meet this hill, like what, like Is that about 10 miles, is it? I think.
Yeah. Dan,
Yeah.
it's around 10 mile park. It's the one that broke me the first time I did it. It's a horrible hill.
No, it's horrible. It's an absolute stinger, right? So what I would say to you there is don't panic if you just kind of get a wobble. Don't panic if you get a wobble there. And also, don't be stubborn to the hill, right? So don't be like looking at
I'll
your
keep
pace.
my pace.
Yeah, no, don't do that, because like you got to run the course. Like I always say, like, somebody says, "Oh, I'm going to run the marathon. I'm going to run 5 minutes per K." I said, you're not going to run 5 minutes per K for every K of the marathon, right? Like, so, like you've got to be flexible, like that. And also, you got to read your energy. You got to be like, ask yourself when you're pushing up this hill. Okay, like realistically now, ask yourself, like, are you good when you come off this hill to keep running on and still have over halfway to go? Like, just ask yourself that, like, because at the end of the day, you should, you know that, like, and take moments of breathers. Like in the marathon, you can go through a lot. Like, you can go through tired patches, where you're just not feeling good, but then you come around again. And definitely a big lesson, I've learned is like, you can't be afraid to back off, right? Like you can't be afraid to like pull back just to get a bit of rhythm, instead of like, almost like when you start tiring, then you almost start trying to keep applying the pressure for fear more comes off. But the minute you start applying more pressure when you're tired, it's just going to get slower and slower and slower. Like, and that's where I always say, like, just like accept what's happening on the day. Like that is reality, right? Like reality is that like, we're going to go into Dublin, right? Not everyone is going to PB. Like that is reality, And so it just depends what's there for you on the day, like, but I do think, if you just stay relaxed with it, yes, have your marker splits. And I think that's another thing we talked about the last day, is not getting caught up in the K split versus like have your markers on the course. So they have, correct me if I'm wrong, but like obviously they have all the K markers on the course. So basically, like I would have my 5K, 10K, 15K, 20, 25K, 5K splits basically. And what I would do even with that is I actually because I'll probably end up doing it with the women with pacing them, is I'll probably write it down on my hand. Like they'll have, like I'll have a set pace that I'm supposed to be going at, right? Now, like, as I was saying to you last year when I did it, my watch gave me an average, because I only paced them to halfway last year. My watch gave me an average pace of 5:35 or 5:34 last year. But when I actually got to halfway, it was 5:39 pace,
Yeah.
So like, that's something to be aware of, that like, if you're going off your own splits and you think you're on pace, you're probably not, like, So again, we spoke about the tangents. We spoke about 42 kilometers is a long time out there, that like, if you're not exactly running on the correct line, you're adding on time, and you'll be pushed out by the amount of people in the race anyway, the depth of it. So like, go by the markers on the course, and like, I would allow yourself every 5K marker, so you're not being overfed with information. That would be my advice. And just be flexible, and know that you can come out of it too. You can come out of tired patches.
And there's one thing as well on Garmin's and certain watches, you can change the interval of the ding. So for me on marathon day, I change it to 5 kilometers for that very reason. One, the ding reminds me it's time for a gel, in my case, because that's how I like to do it. And it's an average over 5 kilometers, because in the first portion we're climbing, in the second portion there's descending, and it's to see over the last 5K, how am I looking? Because it is a very, very long race. So it is another little tip and trick. And again, don't be panicked. The marathon is about a second wind, third wind, fourth wind, probably a fifth wind. So don't be afraid to slow down, take on nutrients, take on the extra drink, and slow yourself right down to take on the extra nutrition if it's needed, because in 10, 15, 20 minutes time, that will pick you up at some point.
Yeah. And exactly, Eric. And sorry, and just as you were speaking about the nutrition there, I didn't fully answer your question there before when you asked Sean as well, is in terms of when should you take things on, right? When should you take gels on, or that, is it every marker? So like, by now you'll want to be kind of comfortable with your plan, week off, right? But what the biggest thing with fueling in the marathon is you're trying to keep yourself fueled, not allowing it to drop, right? So like, I would be taking, like, I just give an example. The elites are running for 2 hours to 2 hours and 10 minutes, the men, right? they roughly take on fuels every 5K. So the elites will have a stand every 5K on the race to take on fuels. Okay. But if you break 5K down for them, you're actually talking 15 minutes, right? Like roughly, right? So that now also,
disgusting.
Yeah. So if you just take that down right there, they're taking on every 15 minutes. And roughly speaking, an elite marathoner is taking on 80 to 100 grams. But we also know that, like, if you're out there for 2 hours, you can take closer to, they don't advise you taking 100 grams if you're running for 4 hours, you know. And also, even though everyone is giving their best, the actual intensity the elites are racing at is why, like, they have to sort of be able to keep stored up that amount, right? But either way, they are taking it every 5K. So, like, I think, and they're labeled 5K because they're hanging on 5K because part of the rules of the elite running is, like, you have to grab it at the same point that everyone else in the elites grabs it at. For everyone else in the race, they're free to choose when they take their gels if they have them on them themselves, right? So maybe what might be best is to, like, break it down kind of like in terms of, like, time, you know, as opposed to, like, distance. So maybe it could be like you're taking the gel on every 25 minutes, you know, and just do it that way, like just 25, so 25, 50, you know, and have that there so that you have the strategy no matter what, and you're not trying to, like, think about it on the course when you take it. You don't want to be planning it out there, you know. And definitely a good one to take is, like, when you're on the starting line, just pop a gel there. Like, I think that means you're starting off fueled up. I would always, like, yes, I might have my carb mix tomorrow now, but I'll just pop a gel on the start line. And then that means then I take my first one then at, like, 5K, you know, or it'll be 25 minutes. So the whole idea is that you cannot increase your energy levels back up during the race, but you've got to minimize the damage of it from the start.
That's a great way to look at it. You're starting at 100%, and that will drop, and it's trying to control how much that drops.
Slow it down. Put it on slow-mo, you know?
It's not like an exam where I'm like, right, I got to get up to 40% to pass this one. You're just starting at 100 and working from there. That's a great way of looking at it. Is there a point during the race where a lot of people will go towards marathon training and they'll have all the heart rate and stuff, and then everything is judged by their heart rate? Is there a point where in this race where you think now is the time to try and push on what you have and go toward, keep yourself calm to that point? Or is it just, you just have to stay steady because you never know what's around the corner in terms of how you feel and your ups and downs in a race like this? Looking to recover faster, train harder, and perform better?
And then what?
Perform Nutrition is one of Ireland's leading sports nutrition brands with a number of great tasting protein powders, a range of vitamins, as well as other supplements such as creatine. All products are made in the GMP facility in the west of Ireland, and they have a range of batch tested and informed sports certified products. Perform is trusted by a number of Olympians, High Rocks champions such as Sean Noble, he was in the podcast.
Yeah, right, he was.
Also CrossFit Games athletes such as Emma McQuaid and many more. Perform's goal is to offer the highest quality, best tasting nutrition products for competitive prices, and now you can get an extra 25% off all products with the code AGR on their website, performnutrition.com.
25%! I'm typing it in now. And don't forget, we are supporting Irish companies. You are supporting this podcast by listening to this advert. So support Irish, get behind your podcast and get behind your local businesses. And until then, let's get back to the podcast.
Yeah, so I suppose the truth in that one, it could be either or. Like, I suppose, like, for an example, right? Like, if you have a heart rate goal, the only thing I can say on that too is, like, what about if you got a mad humid day? Like a really humid day and a really hot day, it will drive the heart rate up. And then maybe it starts freaking you out a little bit, you know? So, like, what I would also say to people is, like, just on the day, like, just be actually aware of, like, what weather is there, right? Like, so, like, if it's hot, if it's humid, if it's lashing rain, if it's windy, like, game plans, like, I guarantee everyone is making their game plan off having a perfect day. Like, that is everyone's game plan, right? Like like everyone does that. Like, you know, I'm going to hit these splits. I'm going to hold this heart rate, not a puff of wind, lovely, perfect temperature, like no rain, right? So if those elements change, it's logical that your body will react differently. So you have to be aware of that, you know, and not stubborn to it, but also be able to adapt, you know. So in that case, like, you know, again, it is a long race. Like, so you want to make sure, like, unless you're very, very sure of yourself, like, you know, even when you get to halfway in a marathon, like, you still have another 13 miles. And I know the saying goes, like, halfway, 13 miles or 21K in a marathon isn't halfway, because the diminishing return, like when we talk about diminishing return, is more and more the further you go on. So it's not as if like the first half is going to be just a double up of the second half. No, like sometimes once you get to 20 miles, the last 10K could feel like, you know, you don't know what's going to happen then, you know? So like, I just think like have a ballpark idea of where you want to run, start out at that pace, check in with yourself, right? Don't allow yourself to go burn out all the fuel, you know, so don't allow yourself to get there. And like, if you allow yourself to get there, like, you know, you haven't been paying attention. You know, so you still have to pay attention to yourself on the day. But at the same time, too, of course, there are people then in places where like they are running to the line because they really want to break a certain time. And that's part and parcel of what happens when you want to go after big goals, right? Like you're putting yourself on the line. So don't be also afraid if it doesn't work out, right? Like that's okay too. Like, you know, like there's no failure in this. It's just trying. And like you would say to yourself, like, okay, if you decided I want to break 3:30, no, that's what I want. I don't want 3:31. I want 3:30. Actually, I want 2:29. I was like, well, then that's what you're going for today. Like, so just go for that, you know, and whatever way it'll fall. But like, you know, you can come back and you can go another time at it again. So like, this is not going to be the last Dublin Marathon for people. And remember, it's not going to be the last race either. So don't be afraid at the same time to have fun with it and allow yourself to think you can achieve goals. You don't have to go in with this absolutely fear approach, you know?
In our previous episodes, you talked about race experience and it's a point to that. This is relative. It's in Ireland. It's a home marathon. It's a big marathon. It's time to get race experience for some people as well who are pushing. Don't be afraid to push and fail. It's a time to do it. You haven't spent money on flights to Munich, to New York, to this. If you're going to be in a big event and a big crowd with rolling hills and you want to see if you can get that 3:29, 2:29, it's either, as you said, it's on a knife edge, it's on a line, and you're going to learn those lessons in this one and get that race experience.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
To the Sean of a couple of years ago who was doing a second or third marathon, if he heard about, you know, the halfway mark and in the law of diminishing returns and stuff, the way I would have approached it and the way I did approach it was, right, first we're going to go a little bit faster for that first half and then we're going to hang on for dear life. So if I'm going for a 3, like when I was going for a 4, I'd like, I'll average 150, and sure, if I get a 2:10 the second half, then I'll average I get a 4, and I will suffer. But I've got an extra 20 minutes to the half that I did in the first half. That's just a ballpark figure. What are your thoughts on something along those lines, and more so about like a negative split? Would you recommend a negative split for a more experienced person at that stage, or is it even and Stephen all the way through?
Yeah, that is a good question, to be honest, because I sometimes think about that, like with my people that I'm coaching who are running Dublin as well, and that, and I think negative splitting is something. I feel you have to have a lot of experience with it to negative split it, you know, because you really have to know kind of what you're capable of doing, you know, and also, I feel like for majority of people, it's really going to end up coming down to like putting one foot in front of the other as you come closer towards the end. Do you know what I mean? Like there probably mightn't be a huge amount of energy there to pick it up. You know, sometimes even just the sheer volume of the run alone, regardless of race pace, by the time you get to 20 miles, you're just heavy, you know? So, like, and this is another thing too, like I was thinking about is like, I would just say to people, just with your goal, like, you know, and nobody is to tell anyone, what their goal is. Like you're free to say whatever you want. But I would also say too that like make sure it adds up, right? Like make sure it adds up, right? Like there's a lot of people say I want to run this, and I'm like, yeah, that's a fair bit faster than what you've ever ran before. Like, where do you see that happening? Oh, I just think I can. Because I don't think a lot of people still really understand what the pace is relative to the time they're looking for. They always like see a shiny rounded number. Oh, I want to break 4. Oh, I want to break 3. Oh, I want to break 3:30. And realistically speaking, they actually could be like 15 minutes off that. Like I would just make sure like it adds up. Like even a half marathon, like okay, let's say for example, like you run a 1:30 half marathon. Like for the way I would see it is for a person running a 1:30 half marathon, like even running it 3:10 is going to be a very good run. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like that's going to be very, very good. That's, I would say that's as good as that person would do. No, I'm not saying somebody can't do better, but like, it could be closer to like 3:20, because like when the wheels come, like a half marathon, like is a long way, but it's not a marathon. Like they're two different events. Like they're completely different. Like if somebody is like, running 90 minutes to 2 hours for a half marathon, like the marathon is another step on ahead again of that, so like you don't just like add on another 5 minutes. Like, they work like that. Like, at some point, like your energy is gone, like, so I would be saying to people like, okay, like if you haven't ran a marathon before and you don't really like be somewhat like rational about what you're doing, because like, like make sure it adds up. Like just break it down, make sure it adds up, and then if you're happy to go with it, then go ahead. And then what I would say after that is please then reflect on that to learn going into the next one. Take at least some from it,
That's one thing about me and Sean, the sign of madness. We keep doing the same thing every year and we haven't learned from it once.
You don't know me, son. I do it. I got to park the ego at the door.
Talking about where races fall apart, the dreaded wall and what that means between, and it's very noticeable in the race. If you're one of the ones that's not feeling it between 28 and 32K and you're feeling strong to 35, you're one of the few. You're one of the few that are still in good shape, and you should feel that will give you the burst to continue, the confidence to hold on and keep the plan is working, you're fueled. You start to feel it at 28, 32. You're one of the majority who start to suffer. What do we do then?
It's at that moment in time, like one, like sometimes our default to do is when we tire, we almost like push down further on the gas. It's like, no, don't do that, right? Just like ease off a bit and allow yourself to like there is a chance you can come through with. Like, it doesn't mean it's written in stone right now because you might be, quote unquote, hitting the wall. Like at the end of the day, like that is a saying like in marathons, but at the end of the day, it's not as if like this wall is in the same place for everyone or is for you at the same time, It's at the end of the day, it's a marathon. Like there's fatigue at the end of it, no matter what way you skin it. Like that's bottom line. Like, it's going to get heavy and just expect that, and more so it's in those moments, the only thing you can do is freak yourself out in panic and start thinking negatively, so in those moments, I would be just like, ask yourself to calm down. This is expected. Just if I just pull back here, maybe you're also hitting it on a part that is a little bit of a short, steep hill. Just relax, that's all you can do. And just, and also I will say to people too, like, I know people don't like hearing it too, but like sometimes like it's okay to stop. Like sometimes it is okay to stop, like, and take a breather, like, and have a stretch out or like, because genuinely, like, when you see what can happen people when they start fading towards the back end of a marathon, like, maybe some people that I'm coaching that are so new to running, like as in they've never even ran the distance before, they're actually scared of the distance, and they've been brought to a walk more in marathons before. Like, well, like I would always say, it's like, you could also like break it down into 5Ks. Like you can like just like allow yourself a moment to switch off every 5K or take a 30-second walk or a minute walk. Now, I know that's not for everyone, but my point being is that like what you could save yourself for the dying in the end, because I always say you cannot control death. So you can hit such a wall at times that you actually like then get to a point where like, oh my God, like I can't even run these last 3 miles. Like, you know, so what you might save earlier on by backing off might allow you to actually not lose as much at the end. So just ask yourself where you fall into that category, you know, and also like everyone else has their own goals. Like you got to have your own goal and your own strategy and know who you are. And, you know, there'll be plenty of people going off up to Dublin in groups of friends with clubs and everything, but you're still your own person on the day running it. So run your race to you, you know, and, like there'll be plenty of stories of people coming home happy, sad, whatever. But like, just like do your best, you know, adjust and you know, and main thing is just don't panic.
And we get into that last 5K when we come past UCD, we come up over the bridge. It's kind of like the last little climb, I want to call it, when you're climbing up that slip road and then you lead down into the back streets. We take a left then, we're coming down past the RDS. We start to see the barriers left and right for crowd control. It's a sign we're getting close.
Yeah, so like what I would say too with that little short hill is try and kind of like shorten the stride up it and just actually kind of just maybe even lean forward a slight little bit just to kind of help you get up the hill a little bit. You know, don't start driving up the hill, really just shorten the stride so you're not like shorten your stride to what it would be on the flat so it's less pressure. And then just shorten the stride, lean a little bit forward. I feel that helps when you're going uphill. And then when you get up to the top of it, just keep that shorter momentum for a while too until you gather yourself. And then, you know, like what I would say then, you know, over those last couple of miles where you're seeing the barriers, you're coming into the finish, then take it in. Like, take it in then. Like, you know, like really, truly, like you're there. Like so like make sure you absorb that last 2K to 1K, like, you know, because that's what you're going to be thinking about when it's over. Because once you run down that last 1K, it's over. Like, you know, so really, really just take it in and feel the crowd because, like, you know, you're running down the same crowd that the winner of the men and women ran through. Like, you know, you get to experience all that and everyone is shouting for everyone out there to just, you know, because of like, they're just acknowledging people, you know, putting themselves on the start line and going through it. So, you know, and remember that too, when you're getting up that little hill, that finish is coming closer. You know, it is coming closer. But the main thing is to enjoy it and also enjoy it. Like, enjoy it at mile 13. Like, keep saying to yourself, you want to be out here. You know, I keep going back to that positive self-talk is really what's going to make the difference.
Yeah. Or you signed up first, so you may as well enjoy it. We get down to that turn left after the Tesco's there. It's just 3K of the crowds building and building and building. And that's what I talked myself through. And they had last year, he was first on the big screen there, the Irish Live screen there around the 25-mile marker maybe. And then after that, it really starts building. I think it's changed a small bit this year. As look at the map, there's a small little turn left and right or something at the very end of that. They changed the start and finish. But still, the crowds are still building towards that point. It's going to be phenomenal. Just take it all in. No matter if it's your best day out or not your best day out. The feeling you get of crossing a finish line at a marathon with those crowds that so very few of us experience in any other form, like just having that many people around you, like it is a pretty cool thing. And just take a minute to acknowledge you did it, take it in when it's first or fifth or whatever. Like,
no, 100%. And I think, like, you know, to go through the whole experience is, you know, you have to be a warrior. Like, you know, it's 42K running. Like, it's like, I'll put it this way, like I've actually only once in my life ran for a marathon. I was pacing a friend in Cork, but like up to that, I haven't even ran that distance myself, you know? So like, that's a hell of a distance, and like times aside and everything. And I know sometimes we can call it times, but like at the end of the day, like just getting out there, running it, racing, like that's the achievement. And like, even when you come away, like when you cross the line and you're absolutely battered, like part of us like also did it for that, like, you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, I put myself through that, and like, you know, maybe for then 10 minutes afterwards, you can actually relax.
David, it's not encouraging to hear you've only done it once for me. When you got through a race and you have pushed yourself to that limit, is there any particular advice you give to your runners and stuff about, I don't know, taking 10 minutes to stretch or getting fuel into you straight away? Because me and Eric are the not smart.
We go the toners
straight to toners. Like, I get to the stage, I'm like, okay, some of you can see me to finish, but some of you have to be at toners and make sure I have a seat to sit down there and enjoy a couple of pints.
Yeah, no, I think like when you eat whatever you want when you're done, it's done then. So whatever you're feeling, obviously get something into you. Now, sometimes it can actually be hard. You can actually be a bit upset in the stomach that much that you don't feel like, but even just getting a banana, I think whatever they're handing out there, or like even a bit of a sports drink in, just to like fuel up because you completely depleted, that will help recovery. Like, remember that, like, you have to recover from this now, like, so I mean, even like, let's say if you had family members are there, let's say you just had a protein shake made. Do you know what I mean? Just a protein shake or a carb drink is like, I know all the work is done now and it's over, but look, just throw that into you and it'll actually just help with recovery. You know what I mean? And then go and eat whatever you want or drink whatever you want for the rest of the day. And then what I would say is just in the coming week or two, a couple of things, like whether you're somebody who plans on kind of getting back into training again soon after, or you've no intention at all, just remember that your last run, you've absolutely smashed your body, and that, like, there will be savage, fatigue there and muscle damage done, right? So, like, just think the next week a little bit about things to promote recovery, whether it's like organizing a massage, whether it's going to the pool and sauna, maybe just spending a little bit extra time bone rolling mobility. Like, pay attention to how your body feels, because like, don't kind of go into do nothing for weeks after, leaving that residue in there, so try and bring the body back like afterwards, because what'll end up happening is when the motivation comes back to do something else, your body will thank you for it then.
Speaking on that, a lot of people are going to get the text message pretty much as they cross the finish line. They get do you want to buy next year's before we tell you your time this year? And message from Dublin City Marathon. What advice do you have for people who are going to cross that line and have that potential to have no motivation to get out again? The winter is coming in, we're cozy, we're comfortable, we're relaxed. How do we best progress ourselves into keeping that fitness through the winter and keeping a good base that we can project off for the new year?
Yeah, well, like, everyone after hard races like that are going to go through a little moment of deflation and lack of motivation, but like, you've put in a lot of work. And like, again, when I was on the podcast the last time speaking with you, like, I just sometimes, like, it kills me seeing people put in so much work for one race, and then if it didn't go well, then they throw the hat at it. I'm like, oh my God, like, there's more for you to be got there. So like, maybe back off from the marathon for a while and like think about like we all need goals. Like, what motivated people over the last number of months to train was Dublin Marathon. So Dublin Marathon was the motivator, and like, ask yourself then, like, do a bit of a reflection on the race afterwards. Okay, so why didn't it go well? And if you don't know why, maybe also like seek guidance as to why. Because I know a lot of the time when people come to me and ask for coaching, and like, the first thing I do is go back with like, okay, where are you coming from? And like, I can discuss with them as to like, oh yeah, but like, here you were doing this and you were doing that, or you weren't doing this. But they wouldn't have had an idea of that because they didn't know. So find somebody, whether it's a club member, a friend, maybe somebody who actually knows, and just kind of get a bit of guidance to, okay, why do you think it might have gone wrong for me here? Because if there was areas that did go wrong, that in itself provides motivation for the following year, as then, oh no, there's actually ways for me to improve here, And then I'm a big believer in like, I genuinely think like, if you could actually make some sort of a running plan between after Dublin and Dublin of next year, you're going to have a better chance, because I'm a big believer in you are your average as opposed to a 3-month marathon block, and ask yourself, is this all I have done? Is these 3-month marathon blocks? Have I actually not trained from one year to the next? Maybe that's the way to go, but bring the intensity and the pressure of it down, but train over a longer period of time and have other goals in the cards, whether it's, 5K, like, definitely bring it back down. Like, so half marathon, 10K, 5K, maybe try and figure out, can you improve your 5K over the coming months? and find races that excite you, you know, and set it up. And then maybe if you have already a training group, you have people to run with, you know, if you've had buddies to run with during Dublin, maybe chat with them and say like, hey lads, let's try and set another goal here. Let's not let it all go to waste here now, and do that. But, you know, talk with people on it, because I sometimes think that sometimes we can go into ourselves and get negative about things. But like, I feel like when we chat with others, it can also bring new insight and motivation and, you know, accountability.
And it's one thing, you said, like, you've built yourself up, you've trained for weeks, you've sacrificed family outings. Probably the birth of your child, whatever it is, has been sacrificed for the last 16 weeks in this block, building up to Dublin Marathon. Families are excited for you. Everyone's excited for you. It's a shame to let all that go and not continue the benefits and the good sides you've got now of this run. It's going to be a proud moment for a lot of people, even on Sean's next one. I won't be there myself, but on Sean's next one, he's always proud crossing that finish line, good and bad or different, and it happens every year. Have you any, I suppose, final bit of praise or a bit of things for people who are going to show up to the start line and can settle their nerves?
Yeah, well, I think first, like, if you've gotten to the start line, like, you've made it, right? Like, because nobody, even professionals, don't know how the race day is going to go. Like, nobody in Dublin on the start line can tell you exactly how the race is going to go for them. Nobody can, right? So but the only thing we can do is we can get to the start line. And so you have done that. And so, you know, like, that is an achievement, to go through the training, to go through this stress that comes with it. Like, be proud of that and be like, you know, part of it all was actually just the challenge of getting here and putting in the work. And so, like, see that as the first big achievement. Like, that is the achievement. And then the fruits of that achievement are you get to go and enjoy the race. Like, that is the fruits of it. Like, that you're not the person standing on the side of the road wishing you were out there running. You are out there running. So that's the reward, because what will end up happening is we'll be finished and we'll be like, oh my God, that was so good. That was so much fun. I wish I could do that again, but it's over. You know, so just make sure you enjoy it. Like, that is so important. And I keep going back to say, like, you know, the fitness will come out. Whatever is there, will come out. Like, so just let that be, you know. And unfortunately, that's the reality of sport in ways, isn't it? We can't really control the outcome.
We can just enjoy it, good, bad, and indifferent, I suppose.
Yeah. And especially Dublin Marathon, there's so many people that don't make that starting line for whatever reason, more so than other marathons. But maybe there's people that, like, you get to the starting line, or they're listening to this podcast and going, I was going for a 3 hour, the training wasn't right, I'm going for a 3:20, or I'm going for a 3:45 or 4 hour, or geez, I just love to cross the thing, but only my preparation was a little bit better. Maybe this guy talking to us for the last hour of the podcast, he could have guided me better to the podcast, not you, obviously, David, not me or Eric. So if people did want to get coaching with you towards a marathon in 2025 or a big race in 2025, how can they do it?
How can they get coached by me?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I thought usually the way it works is I have, like, people will just reach out to me, like, direct message me on Instagram or wherever they can get my contact. Like, my messages are open on Instagram. And what I usually do is, like, I'll always, like, when somebody reaches out, I actually just set up a video chat, like a Zoom call with them, to chat face to face, and just like, okay, what is it you're looking for, or where are you coming from? Like, because, like, I want to get to know the person and also know what it is that they've been struggling with, what their goals are. And through that conversation, then we chat about all of this, and I explain, I suppose, my coaching philosophy. Maybe I ask them a lot of questions about what they've been doing to now, so maybe I can give some insight into maybe some things they haven't been able to see about themselves, where there's actually lots of room for improvement. And then we take it from there. And then if they're happy to go ahead and I'm happy to go ahead, then it's just the start of a relationship from there.
And no better way for people to keep that motivation going after a race is to get in touch with someone, is to take note of what they've done, reflect on what has been a brilliant race. From us, this is a fantastic weekend in the calendar. It's a weekend that's been in so many people's calendars for years. For some have got a ticket in the last couple of weeks. For some, it is absolutely brilliant. But we really do wish you all the very best on this. It is a marathon. At the end of the day, there's not many people who do it. There's a lot of people that say they want to do it. And as David has said, the start line and being there and putting yourself forward and knowing what's in front of you on that morning is something to be proud of and do when you go through each kilometre and every mile that clicks by. Be proud of it. It's another step closer to that glorious medal that's up for grabs this year. So make sure to cross that finish line one way or another and get a medal deserved, whether it's a good race, bad race or indifferent. It's a marathon and it's Dublin Marathon and we're all so excited for it.
And on that note, this was supposed to be a half-hour chat today, but you've over-delivered this. So I can only imagine how much you over-deliver in your coaching as well. Thank you very much for this. I've taken a lot on board myself, a lot of notes here myself and son.
Hopefully it was helpful.
Absolutely, 100%. And on that note, thanks again. Best luck to everyone doing the marathon that's listening. And that's it for this week's episode of the Any Given Runday Podcast. Myself, David, and Eric. Take care.